In ancient Greece, there was a man who upset an entire democracy. His name was Socrates, and he was a philosopher who lived in Athens from 470 to 399 BCE. He is considered to be one of the founders of Western philosophy and is known for his contributions to ethics, metaphysics, and epistemology. But he also had a complicated relationship with the democratic government of Athens, which ultimately led to his death. Socrates was born into a wealthy family, but he chose to live a simple life. He never married or had children, and he spent his time traveling around Athens and engaging in philosophical discussions with young people. He was a soldier in his youth and fought in many battles, but he was not interested in politics. He believed that the pursuit of wisdom and virtue was more important than the pursuit of power and wealth. This may sound like a typical story of a beatnik artist, but remember that this took place in ancient Greece, a society that revered philosophers and saw them as a positive influence. Athens was the birthplace of democracy, and its citizens were proud of their political system. They believed that democracy was the best form of government, and that it allowed them to participate in the affairs of their states. However, Socrates was not impressed by democracy. He believed that the majority of people were ignorant and that they often made bad decisions. In fact, he said that democracy was the worst form of government, because it gave power to the hands of those who were unqualified to use it. Socrates was not the only one who criticized Athenian democracy. Plato, his student, wrote extensively about the dangers of democracy. He believed that democracy led to the election of demagogues who appealed to the emotions of the people rather than their reason. He also believed that democracy led to a decline in virtue and a rise in immorality. However, despite these criticisms, Athenian democracy continued to thrive. It lasted for centuries, and it inspired other civilizations to adopt democratic principles. But what made Socrates so controversial? Why did he upset the Athenians? Socrates' philosophy was based on the Socratic method, a technique of questioning and dialogue that was designed to help people examine their beliefs and improve their understanding of the world. He used this method to challenge the ideas of his students and to expose their ignorance. He would ask them questions about morality, ethics, and politics, and then point out their inconsistencies and fallacies. This was not always a comfortable process, but Socrates believed that it was necessary if people were to achieve wisdom and virtue. Socrates was not only a teacher, but also a gadfly, a pain in the side of the Athenians. He constantly irritated them with his questions and his criticisms. He was seen as a troublemaker who was trying to undermine the authority of the government and the traditional way of life in Athens. The Athenians were a proud and arrogant people, and they did not like being reminded of their ignorance. They saw Socrates as a threat to the stability and prosperity of their state, and so they decided to silence him. In 399 BCE, Socrates was put on trial for impiety and corrupting the youth. He was accused of not believing in the gods of the state and of teaching others to do the same. He was also accused of impiety towards the traditional values and customs of Athenian society. Socrates' defense was that he was a philosopher, not a politician, and that he was simply seeking wisdom and understanding. He argued that his questions and criticisms were intended to help people improve themselves, and he denied that he had corrupted the youth, but the jury found him guilty and he was sentenced to death. Socrates was given the option to escape prison and go into exile, but he refused. He believed that it was his duty to obey the laws of his country, even if he disagreed with them, and so he drank a cup of poison and died. The death of Socrates was a tragedy, but it also became a legend. It showed the world the power of democracy and the willingness of some people to defend their beliefs even unto death. Some people saw Socrates as a martyr, a victim of religious intolerance and political persecution. Others saw him as a hero, a symbol of resistance against tyranny and oppression. And so the story of Socrates has been told and retold throughout history, inspiring countless people to fight for justice and freedom. If you want to know more about Socrates, I recommend reading Plato's Apology and Crito. These are two of Plato's dialogues that were based on the trial and death of Socrates. They are considered to be some of the greatest works of philosophy ever written. If you want to learn more about ancient Greek history, I recommend watching my video on Pericles. He was the leader of Athens during its golden age, and he played a major role in the development of democracy and classical art and architecture. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.